I was stuck in my apartment, working too many hours at my aerospace job. I had always loved space, but I found myself buried under old NASA documents. The dim light from my desk lamp made the place feel even smaller. Then I stumbled upon something odd. Apollo 18. Most people didn't even know it existed. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I found a recording labeled Apollo 18 Lunar Caves. I hit play. At first there was just static. I thought maybe it was broken, but then I heard whispers. I leaned in closer. The voices danced in and out, speaking a language I didn't understand. A chill ran down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that I shouldn't be listening. Days passed, and the whispers stayed with me. I woke up in cold sweats, dreaming of dark moon caves and shadowy figures lurking in the corners. I told myself it was work stress. But deep down, something felt very wrong. Like I was getting too close to a secret I wasn't meant to know. I kept looking for answers. I heard rumors. People who got close to those caves had vanished. I questioned my sanity. I'd be sitting at my desk, the hum of my computer filling the air, when I thought I heard breathing behind me. I'd turn, but there was nothing. Just shadows. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know what happened. Why was NASA so secretive? I dug deeper, searching the internet for hidden files. They spoke of ancient structures and something alive, something that shouldn't have been there. The more I read, the more I felt like I was being watched. My heart raced every time I stepped outside. That night I was up late. I swear I heard whispers again, but this time they were louder. I stumbled backward, tripping over my cluttered floor. My heart raced, and sweat poured down my back. I thought it was my mind playing tricks. Then a voice called my name, clear as day. I froze. I felt stupid for being afraid. I kept the light on, scanning the shadows, but I saw nothing. The walls felt like they were closing in. I told myself to calm down, that I was just tired. But then I saw a shadow shift at the edge of my vision. I blinked and it was gone. I knew I wasn't alone. What was up there in those caves? The whispers grew louder, almost a chorus. It felt like they were reaching out to me, begging me to join them. I couldn't breathe. I felt trapped in my own apartment. I thought about the astronauts, the ones who vanished in those caves. My skin crawled. I stumbled toward the door, ready to escape, but I hesitated. What if I turned around? What if they were waiting? What if the whispers were calling me home? I took a deep breath. Something pulled at me. I couldn't ignore it. The whispers were unraveling me, and I think I finally understood. They wanted me. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being pulled into something much larger than myself. I stood at the door, hesitating, caught between the urge to escape and the compulsion to seek answers. Then, I heard it again. A voice, unmistakably familiar. Come to me. My heart pounded. I had to check. I turned off the lamp, plunging the room into shadows. I crept toward the living room, my breath shallow. The whispers grew louder, clearer, as if they were behind the walls themselves. I felt like I was in a trance, an invisible thread drawing me in. Suddenly I remembered my computer. I rushed to it, fingers shaking as I powered it back on. My mind raced. What if there were more files, more answers? I had to dig deeper. In that moment, the gentle whirring sound of the machine was the only thing keeping me anchored. I opened the same file I'd found before, desperate to hear the whispers again. But the recording wouldn't play. I felt a wave of frustration, then fear. What if I had already gone too far? I retried it, pressing different buttons in my panic, but it was like the recording had vanished. In that silence, the whispers morphed into a new sound, what felt like dripping water echoing through my mind. I stood up and turned, scanning for the source. Then I noticed something glinting under my desk. I knelt down, my breath caught in my throat as I picked up an object. It was a small metallic piece, the shape of a lunar module's part. It was worn but intact. That's when I saw it. Scrawled onto the metal were symbols, just like those in the documents I had read about Apollo 18, hieroglyphs that didn't belong to any known language. I felt dizzy. Had this come from the moon? Had this been left behind? I turned the piece this way and that, feeling sweat drip down my back. Where had this come from? Was it a clue? The shadows in my apartment felt thicker suddenly. I could hear the whispers mocking me. They seemed to be laughing, swirling around, beckoning me to join them in some dark unknown. My phone buzzed, breaking the tension. I stumbled backward, dropping the metallic piece. I fumbled to check my messages, just a random notification. Nothing important. But it gave me a moment to steady myself. Then everything went dark. The power cut out, plunging me into complete silence. I stood frozen, engulfed in shadows, feeling the weight of the whispers settle around me like a fog. I whispered back, barely audible. "What do you want?" The air grew colder. At that moment I realized I wasn't just dealing with echoes from the past. Whatever was behind those whispers was very much alive. The urge to turn and flee surged within me, but I couldn't. Something deep inside told me I had crossed a threshold. And then, I felt it. A breath right behind me. I spun around, eyes wide, pulse racing. "Who's there?" My voice trembled, but I was met with silence. I gripped the edges of my desk, heart pounding. I had to make a choice. Would I confront this presence, or retreat back into ignorance? The whispers wrapped around me again, and I knew it was a decision I wouldn't take lightly. I took a single step forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. I took a breath, forcing my legs forward, heart thumping in my chest. The air felt charged like static electricity, whispering promises of secrets long forgotten. The darkness was thick, more than just the absence of light. It pressed in on me from all sides. "Show yourself," I said, my voice slightly stronger this time. No response. Just silence. But the weight of unseen eyes felt suffocating. I glanced at the fallen metallic piece, the symbols glinting faintly in the moonlight filtering through the window. Something about it pulled me back. I knelt to pick it up again, and as I did, a metal rattling drew my attention. I spun around, narrowing my eyes. There, by the edge of the doorway, stood a shadow, shifting slightly. My breath quickened. My mind screamed for me to run, but my body remained frozen, caught in the grip of something dark. "Who are you?" I croaked, but my words barely penetrated the silence. The figure remained still, but a chill crept into the room, wrapping around me like a shroud. I picked up the metallic piece again, clutching it like a talisman. Perhaps it was my only protection against whatever this was. Then the whispers returned, more insistent this time, weaving through my thoughts. I could almost make out words. "The truth. The truth comes to you." The shadow twitched and I caught a glimpse. A face. Not fully formed, but there. Blank features with hollowed eyes that seemed to echo the emptiness of space itself. It was like looking into a void. My instincts screamed at me to yell, but fear paralyzed my vocal cords. A sudden noise, something clattering from the kitchen, shattered the tense air. My heart raced. Was someone else here? I had to check. I took a cautious step back, keeping my eyes locked on the figure, now fading into the dark corners of the room. "Stay away," I whispered, half warning, half pleading. But it didn't move, just loomed there like a dark specter. I backed away, inching toward the kitchen, the metallic piece in hand. I reached the doorway and peeked inside. The kitchen was empty, but shadows danced along the walls, moving almost violently. Suddenly, the power flickered back on, illuminating the room in stark contrast. I froze again, my heart racing as I turned back to face the living room. The shadow had vanished, but I could still feel its presence lingering. What was happening? I was in over my head. I turned my attention back to my computer, the screen lighting up with the last document I viewed about Apollo 18, the cave mentioned in the files. The details were hazy, but kept gnawing at me. And then, a new notification blinked on my screen, drawing my gaze. It was a new file, one I hadn't seen before. Tentatively, I clicked on it. My heart raced as I began to read. The words spoke of ancient discoveries, of an object found deep in the moon's surface, tied to the very symbols etched on the metallic piece. But the last line sent ice coursing through my veins. Who activated it? We are not alone. The darkness was encroaching again. I could feel it wrapping around me. Panic surged within. I needed to know more. I had to understand. Would uncovering the truth save me? Or would it pull me deeper into the abyss? Then, a crash echoed from the living room and I jumped. I wasn't alone after all. Something was coming for me. My heart raced as I turned back into the living room, the metallic piece clutched tightly in my fist. The crash echoed again, this time followed by a low, distorted sound, almost like a growl. I felt sweat trickle down my spine, and my instincts screamed at me to run, but I forced myself to stay still. I listened intently, trying to pinpoint the source of the noise. Had it come from the other room, or was that something lurking in the shadows? Then, without warning, I heard another clattering sound, sharper this time, as if something heavy was being knocked over. Taking a deep breath, I moved further into the room, my eyes darting around like a trapped animal looking for an exit. Everything felt wrong. The atmosphere shifted, heavy with menace. I glanced towards the kitchen once more, but I could see nothing out of the ordinary. The whispers rose again, louder now. The truth. They are coming. I shivered. These whispers felt like they were wrapping around me, suffocating. Heavy dread settled in my gut, and a thought struck me. I couldn't let whatever was haunting me get close. I turned back to my computer, mind racing. The new file. I needed to look through it again. Maybe it held answers. Maybe it could explain this strange presence that was tormenting me. I rushed back toward the screen, heart pounding. My hands trembled as I clicked and scrolled through the document. Each line spoke of the mysterious object found deep within the moon's surface, buried in darkness. The descriptions were vague, almost unnerving, but they hinted at power, an energy beyond comprehension. I felt a chill creep over me when I read about an ancient civilization possibly tied to the object, something that had lurked beyond time and space. But before I could process this information, the growling returned, now closer. My breath caught in my throat as I spun around again, adrenaline flooding my veins. I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my vision, a shape darting just outside my line of sight. I stood frozen, adrenaline coursing through me. My mind raced. I had to confront this. I couldn't back down. Ignoring the fight-or-flight instinct screaming at me to hide, I called out, "Who's there?" Silence, nothing but the pulsing of my heart and the ragged rhythm of my breath. Then I noticed it, the faint glow from the metallic object I was holding. It pulsed like a heartbeat, synchronized with the dread building in my chest. Something about its energy felt alive, almost sentient. I raised it to eye level, feeling its weight, hoping it would drive away the shadows encroaching on the room. "Show yourself," I repeated, determination filling my voice now. And that's when I saw it. A figure emerging from the darkness, eyes reflecting the light like twin stars in the void. My breath hitched. In that moment it didn't seem threatening, just there, waiting. But knew I was no longer just facing the unknown. I was stepping into the truth whether I was ready for it or not. The figure stepped fully into the light and my stomach dropped. It wasn't human. The shape was tall and elongated, with skin that shimmered oddly in the dim light. It had no mouth, just hollow sockets where eyes should have been. I took a shaky step back, clutching the metallic object even tighter. The unexpected calm I had felt moments ago vanished. "What do you want?" I managed to stammer, my voice barely audible. It tilted its head as if trying to understand my words. I was trapped, caught between the urge to flee and the need for answers. The whispers grew louder around me, drowning out the growl. "The truth! The truth!" "Stop!" I shouted, trying to drown out the noise. "What truth?" It extended a long, slender arm towards me, almost as if beckoning. I hesitated but couldn't resist the pull of curiosity. Perhaps it was here to help, to explain the chaos my life had become since uncovering the file. I took a cautious step forward, keeping the metallic piece raised like a shield. Suddenly, the growling returned, deeper and more menacing. I spun to look behind me, but there was nothing. Panic flooded my system. "What's going on?" I yelled, desperate for clarity as the shadows grew thicker, swirling with a life of their own. The figure didn't move, still holding its position. Its hollow eyes watched me intently, as if it could sense my fear. The whispers turned into a single clear voice. "You must choose." Choose what? I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. It was all too much. I had stumbled into something vast and incomprehensible. "Your path." The voice echoed, reverberating in my head, sending shivers down my spine. I heard a loud crash from the kitchen. Something had shattered, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this house. The growling was becoming agitated, rising in intensity. I tore my gaze from the figure, torn between facing the danger behind me and uncovering the truth before me. Then something else caught my attention. The metallic object in my hand pulsed again, brighter this time, before a flood of symbols raced across its surface. I could barely breathe. They looked like the writings described in the file I had read earlier, the ones connected to the mysterious object on the moon. Each symbol felt familiar, resonating in my mind. Suddenly I understood. You're connected to this, aren't you?" I asked, my voice breaking. I glanced at the figure, hoping for a response. But just as I made the connection, the growling erupted closer, all-consuming. My instincts kicked in, and I knew I had to act quickly. I could no longer stand and wait. I needed to confront whatever fear was lurking in my own home. As I took a step toward the door leading to the kitchen, the figure whispered, "Do not turn away from what is coming." In that moment, I felt the weight of choice pressing down on me, heavy and ominous. And as I braced myself to face whatever was waiting, a sense of urgency gripped me. I didn't have much time before everything unraveled completely. "Stay back," I said to the figure, my heart pounding. "I'm not afraid." As I stepped closer to the kitchen, shadows danced around me, and I knew the truth was about to be unleashed, whether I was ready or not. I reached for the kitchen door, my hand shaking as I grasped the handle. The growling was louder now, a rumbling sound that vibrated through the floorboards. The metallic object in my hand felt warm against my palm, pulsing like it was alive. I took a deep breath and turned the knob, ready to confront whatever was on the other side. As soon as I pushed the door open, the scene on the other side was surreal. The kitchen was in disarray, chairs were overturned, and the table was covered with shattered glass from a broken picture frame. But there was no time to process that. A dark mass shifted near the sink, outlined by the flickering light above. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice steadier than I felt. A moment of silence stretched out, heavy with tension. The growling faded slightly, replaced by an unsettling silence that made the hair on my arms stand. I squinted against the dim light, trying to make out a figure. Then it lunged. A shape, dog-like but larger than any animal I had ever seen, barreled toward me, teeth bared and eyes gleaming with a strange intelligence. Instinct kicked in, and I bolted back, slamming the door shut just in time. My breath came in short gasps as I pressed my back against it, desperate to keep it sealed. "That thing is real," I whispered to myself, the panic surging back in waves. My eyes darted to the figure that still stood in the living room. It hadn't moved closer, but I sensed its presence looming, waiting. "Help me," I called out, half expecting it to remain silent. But the whispering returned, now urging me to join them. The words echoed in my head like a mantra, pulling at me. I had to make a choice. The shadows in the kitchen seemed alive, prowling as if aware of my fear. But what about the figure? Was it friend or foe? I felt the metallic object heat up again, and suddenly, the symbols on its surface rearranged, forming a new pattern that almost illuminated the darkness. They seemed to guide me, directing my attention back to the glowing form of the alien creature watching me intently. "Why do you need me?" I shouted at it, feeling a mix of anger and fear. "What do you want?" I wasn't just talking to it. I needed answers. Not just from the figure, but from whatever was causing chaos in my life. It felt like the world was spiraling out of control. The growling intensified from the kitchen, causing me to jump. It was an aggressive warning, and I realized I had to choose, to face the creature in the kitchen or to follow whatever the figure needed me to do. "Stop playing games," I yelled, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down. "Just tell me what to do." Just then, the kitchen door rattled violently, and I knew time was running out. That's when I saw it. The glimmer from the metallic object pulsated rhythmically, sharing a sense of urgency. It was now or never. With a mix of fear and determination, I pushed away from the door and turned toward the hall. I couldn't stay locked in this fear. I would face my demons head-on, whether they were from my past or the futures I was just starting to glimpse. As I stepped into the kitchen, I could feel the energy of the creature gathering like a storm. Whatever was about to happen would lead me closer to the truth, or shatter everything I thought I knew. The growling reached a fever pitch, and I stepped forward, ready to confront my fate. The moment I stepped fully into the kitchen, the air felt electric, charged with something I couldn't quite name. The creature's growl pulsated through me, firm and hollow. My heart raced. The shadows seemed to coalesce into something more concrete, pulling my focus toward the sink where the mass had shifted. I couldn't back away now. I faintly remembered the metallic object in my hand. It was a strange comfort. Its warmth coursed through my fingers, guiding me like an old friend. I could almost hear it whispering. As I steadied myself, I took a careful step forward, keeping my eyes locked on the dark shape. "Show yourself!" I demanded, grappling with the remnants of my fear. The growling quieted, and for a lingering moment, silence took hold. Then, the shadow shifted once more, and I found myself inching closer, curiosity overtaking my dread. The light flickered again, casting flashes that revealed more detail. The creature's eyes were luminous, flickering like stars amidst the dark of a moonless night. There was something almost human in its gaze, a flicker of recognition. Then it spoke. "You must listen." Its voice coiled around me, unsettling yet oddly calming. "The key," it continued, nodding toward my metallic object, "will unveil what you fear." "What do you know about it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I was both terrified and enthralled by what this being could tell me. Just then, the fridge door swung open, crashing against the wall with a violent thunk. A gust of cold air rushed through the kitchen, and I glanced back instinctively. I was met with the unsettling sight of the creature in the living room, unmoving, its eyes boring into me with an unsettling intensity. It didn't seem to like the interruption. The growling returned, louder and more authoritative, reminding me that I was no longer alone in the house. A shiver ran down my spine. I felt the walls closing in. "Focus," the creature insisted. "Your fear is holding you back. The truth is within reach." But then, as the words settled in my mind, the lights overhead flickered out completely, plunging the room into darkness. My pulse quickened. A panic washed over me. I fumbled to steady myself, searching for something familiar. I could barely see the shapes around me. Suddenly I heard a low, guttural snarl, unmistakably human, coming from the living room. This wasn't just a nightmare anymore. It felt more like a warning. I could sense the creature in the kitchen urging me as the tension mounted. The thing in the living room seemed closer now, its shadow looming menacingly. "Trust," it called from the darkness. "Use the key." Before I could react, a heavy weight slammed into the kitchen door behind me. I spun around, bracing for impact. Whatever was out there wanted in, and I had to decide quickly. That's when I saw it. The metallic object in my hand lit up, illuminating the fear etched on my face. This was it. The choice. Either face whatever lay beyond that door, or act on whatever this key could reveal. "Help me figure this out," I shouted into the encroaching darkness, knowing time was quickly slipping away. The door groaned under the weight of whatever pressed against it. I felt the metallic object pulse in my hand, as if it sensed my rising dread. I couldn't ignore it any longer. The glow from its surface provided just enough light to see the edge of the sink, the silvery reflection catching my eye. "Focus," I whispered to myself, trying to push down the panic. I needed to understand what this object was capable of. I raised it slightly, the light intensifying. "Show me," I said, almost hoping for a response. The creature in the kitchen shifted closer, its stare locked onto me. What do I do? Use it to reveal, it urged, its voice steady despite the chaos looming around us. The growl from the living room intensified, vibrating through the floor. My heart raced, but I took a deep breath and turned my focus back to the metallic object. I held it higher, willing it to illuminate the truth. Suddenly, the surface glimmered, and a soft melodic hum filled the air. I squinted as images flickered into view, people running, shadows chasing them, buildings in ruins. I could see alien landscapes and structures, like nothing I'd ever known. A world once vibrant but now lost to time. Wait, I murmured, piecing together fragments that didn't quite fit. This was no mere object. It held memories, stories, the remnants of a past that had collided with our own reality. Stop, the creature shouted, a note of urgency slicing through the images. Do not linger on the past. What you seek is ahead. I still didn't understand, but the vision began to fade. The grip on my sanity was slipping alongside them. The darkness was creeping closer, and I could feel the urgency of the creature's warning. With newfound determination, I aimed the object at the door. You want me to face it? I shouted into the growing gloom. The glow brightened, illuminating both the threshold and what lay beyond. For a second, I thought I saw a figure, flickering between the shadows and reality. Step forward, the creature urged with a hint of unease. You must know your fear. The door bucked again, and I could hear frantic breathing from the other side. I clenched the object tightly, feeling its heat match my rising adrenaline. I'm not afraid, I declared, though doubts gnawed at my heart. As if in response, the light flickered violently, frustrated by my hesitation. And then, the door burst open, revealing the living room beyond, transformed. No longer dim and familiar, it was now a twisted echo of the shadows I had seen before. The figure stood there, uncertain and massive. I felt my knees buckle, but I held my ground. Show me what you want, I shouted, necessity overtaking fear. The creature from the kitchen stepped forward, merging with the glowing light from the object. Face the truth, or be engulfed by the shadows. That's when I noticed something in its eyes. Something familiar. I gasped. I knew this fear. It was not just the unknown lurking in the darkness, but something deeper. Something I had tried to forget. Suddenly, the entity lunged. I had no time to react, only to grasp the metallic object tighter, calling on every ounce of courage I had left. I braced myself as the entity lunged, but instead of tearing into me, the massive figure dissipated like fog caught in sunlight. I stood there, heart pounding, alone in the eerie glow of the metallic object. Had it just retreated, or was it waiting for me to take a step closer? Forcing myself to breathe, I scanned the transformed living room. Shadows twisted around familiar furniture, distorting them into nightmarish shapes. The object in my hand pulsed, urging me to move forward. I felt its warmth pulse through my palm, almost like a heartbeat echoing my own fear. Stay calm, I whispered. Face what's ahead. As I stepped closer to the threshold, I caught a glimpse of something that hadn't been there before. A narrow passage behind the couch, barely visible between the shadows. I hesitated, then crouched down, grit filling my gut. What are you hiding? When I aimed the glowing object into the darkness, the light spilled into the shadows, revealing a tunnel-like space that seemed to draw me in. The air felt different, charged with energy. There was something beyond that threshold, something I had to discover. Do not go in, the creature warned from behind me, its voice low and laced with urgency. It is not what you think. But I need to know, I protested, feeling the weight of its words but equally the pull of the unfamiliar. The last images lingered in my mind, those vibrant landscapes, the sense of urgency, the haunting memories. The metallic object flickered again, as if responding to my conflict. The shadows seemed to twist even more, closing in. I was running out of time. I took a deep breath and crawled into the passage, instinctively holding the object ahead of me. The tunnel was cool and almost silent, except for a distant hum that felt like it was both soothing and unsettling. As I progressed deeper into the darkness, I started to hear whispers. They ebbed and flowed around me, a symphony of voices that felt familiar yet distant, a collection of thoughts and fears merging into one. "Turn back," a voice urged. "You don't belong here." "Stay," another one cried. "Discover who you are." I stumbled, caught in their tug of war, but I pressed on. I had to find out what lay ahead. Suddenly, the path opened into a cavern bathed in an unnatural light. Cracked walls glimmered, revealing etchings and designs that looked like they had been carved ages ago. I stepped into the center, awe mixing with terror. That's when I saw it. A glowing pod, enormous and pulsating in rhythm with the object in my hand. Whatever this was, it was significant. What had the Apollo 18 mission found here? As I moved closer, the whispers heightened in intensity, drowning out my thoughts. I was losing myself, losing track of why I was even here. I reached out to touch the pod, but a sudden force threw me back. I landed hard, the object skidding away from me. "What is this?" I shouted, breathless. The shadows roared in response, and the whispers turned into chaos. Then I realized, beneath the cacophony, one voice stood out. A voice I recognized. It called my name, demanding my attention. "You are not finished yet." And then everything went dark. I awoke with a jolt, sprawled on my living room floor, heart thrumming in my chest. The metallic object lay just inches from my fingertips, faintly glowing like a dying star. The air felt thick, heavy with the residue of chaos that had crashed over me mere moments ago, or had it been hours. I glanced around. My apartment was quiet. The shadows seemed less menacing now, though they still loomed in the corners, waiting. Where had the growling creature gone? What about the enigmatic figure in the kitchen? I forced myself to stand, my legs shaky beneath me. I'd confronted something primal and alive, yet all I'd found were more questions that taunted me like the whispers that once hovered in my ear. I picked up the metallic piece, its surface still warm, and scrutinized the inscriptions that danced along its edges. Whatever I had encountered, whatever was intertwined with that alien object, held more power than I had ever anticipated. The whispers had warned me, yet I couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose. Tentatively, I moved toward the still dim kitchen, my breath caught somewhere between fear and resolve. The memories of the cavern flashed through my mind, the pulsating pod, and the voice urging me on. I could still hear it, echoing in the recesses of my consciousness. "You are not finished yet." It felt like a riddle, both a challenge and an invitation. The kitchen welcomed me with silence, unmarked by the chaos I had just fled. I stepped carefully, expecting shadows to spring to life, yet nothing stirred, as if the house itself held its breath. I paused and glanced at the hallway leading to my bedroom, unsure what lay in the quiet darkness. The urge to explore both thrilled and frightened me. The metallic object glimmered in my hands, a hesitant reassurance. Maybe it was the key after all, a connection to some truth I had yet to grasp. But as I prepared to turn toward the hallway, something flickered at the corner of my eye. I turned swiftly, instinctively raising the object. A shadow darted behind the doorway, and the growl from earlier returned, reverberating through the air like a challenge. Every hair on my body stood on edge. I felt the ice of fear seep back into my veins, but mixing with it was a stubborn determination. "I'm not afraid," I called, though the tremor in my voice betrayed me. "Show yourself." The shadows shifted and twisted, revealing the outline of a figure, a shadowy silhouette that inched forward, almost hesitant. "You do not belong," it rasped, a voice like gravel scraping against metal. "You seek what you cannot understand." "I seek truth," I shot back, surprised at the fierceness of my own voice. "Truth often comes at a cost," it warned. "It is a burden, not a gift. Will you carry it?" Its words lingered in the air like smoke, and my grip on the metallic piece tightened. A part of me was terrified at the thought of learning more, of digging deeper, but another part burned with the desire to know what lay beneath the surface. "I don't know what it means yet," I stammered, voice faltering. But I refused to back down. There was a moment of silence, the shadows settling into an uneasy stillness, and then the figure stepped out of the darkness. It was no longer a menacing form, but rather something akin to what I had imagined, a remnant of the past, a specter that bore the weight of countless secrets. "Then follow," it breathed, extending a hand toward the passage that led from the kitchen into the unknown. The growl faded into a soft hum, as if the essence of the shadows had shifted, acknowledging my resolve. I took a deep breath, hesitating for only a moment before stepping forward, heart racing as I crossed the threshold. The lingering uncertainty tugged at me, but as I moved deeper, I felt the warmth of the metallic piece guiding me. Whatever awaited me was still out there, shrouded in mystery, half-formed and waiting for someone brave enough to confront it. As I stood on the precipice, a solitary truth began to crystallize. Sometimes, understanding didn't come with clarity, but rather with a willingness to confront what lay just beyond comprehension. And though I didn't know how this journey would end, I was ready to face whatever awaited me, the thrill of discovery mingling with the shadows of uncertainty. But as I strode forward, I couldn't help but wonder, what had I truly unleashed in my pursuit of truth? Only time would tell. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the echoes of the past were just beginning to converge with my present.